Vetting stories can be pretty hard for wannabe journalists at BuzzFeed and Kotaku who have been caught publishing fake news. The story was about a team of trans gamers who have been rejected from a female CSGO tournament. Kotaku wrote,
Late last week, news broke that a women's CSGO tournament hosted by ESL rejected a team of trans players because they couldn't provide official documentation stating they were female. The incident was eye-opening for everybody involved.
Yeah, we're about to see how eye-opening it was. So what happened was the ESL was trying to have this tournament that was only for women. Now, you can question, should we be segregating groups for esports based on gender? Overall, most of the tournaments aren't segregated, but they do have a women's league, which I really don't have a problem with, nor do I have a problem with the Girl Scouts. A women's league probably brings more attention to the women and gets more women involved in these competitions that they may not realize there's this community out there for them, because there's definitely not as many women playing these games as men are. So I don't see it as a big deal. But there are multiple studies that show men have a much faster response time with visual and audio stimuli than females. So it could potentially be unfair if you're going to let men go into these female tournaments. But that's a topic for another day. But they were trying to do this tournament, but in order to keep it fair for the women, they required that you be a woman. And so they wanted to keep out men and trolls. So these guys, they submitted an application, threw on some wigs, and claimed that they were women. The tournament wrote back to them telling them that they were denying their request and that this was for women only. Now, these people claim that they were discriminated against because they were judged simply based on them being really ugly in a wig. And so the tournament sponsors told them they could reapply if they wanted to, but they would have to show that their gender is female on their passport, which seems pretty fair if you ask me. But Kotaku and BuzzFeed quoted one of the guys who had sent in this application as saying,
"Gender isn't just as simple as what's written on your old passport. There's more to it."
And of course, Kotaku and BuzzFeed ate this up because this is a victim story. And in 2017, everybody loves a great victim and witch hunt story. So after the story blew up, Kotaku was reaching out to the ESL, kind of hinting at this angle, saying, hey, are you going to make changes now that this story is out there and it's kind of blowing up? And the ESL, being like most spineless organizations are today, will roll over on command at the first sign of any trouble to appease the SJWs. And so they told Kotaku that they were working on trying to revise the rules. But it turned out they had it right the first time because these guys weren't really transgendered gamers. They were trolls. And it wasn't until InfoWars did what journalists are supposed to do. They went digging, they vetted the story by reaching out to multiple people, and they Googled their name, which these people made no attempt to hide their team name, to hide who they were. So anybody who would have Google searched them in 5 minutes would have come across their channel and realized that they were a bunch of trolls. They're a group of friends who do all kinds of trolling. Now, since word has spread that Kotaku and BuzzFeed were out there publishing fake stories, both have issued updates now. BuzzFeed changed their story completely, pretty much, and Kotaku, right before I started filming this, finally decided to add a disclaimer to theirs. Kotaku wrote,
"When this sort of prank gains widespread publicity, it makes people in organizations more likely to distrust actual trans people. By failing to adequately vet the story, I gave it more publicity."
Not really sure that it makes us distrust trans people. It's more about distrusting you.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.